now let's solve the last part of the question, which is question 8C. A password has a fixed format consisting of 3 groups of 4 alphanumeric characters separated by hyphen character. An example of a password is FXAF3HAVTQ49. There are 4 alphanumeric characters each, separated by what? Hyphen. So these are the hyphens that separate them. No, this. Okay, and these are 4 characters, 4 characters, 4 characters. Each password must be 14 characters long because 4 is 12. Then the 2 hyphens are 14. They must be organized as 3 groups of 4 alphanumeric characters. This is 1, 2, 3. 3 groups of 4 alphanumeric characters. Okay? The groups are separated by what? By the hyphen characters. Not included any duplicate characters. There must be no duplicate characters except for the hyphen. So if you have a 3 as one of the character, there should be no other 3 as one of the character. An algorithm is needed for a new function, generate password. So we need to write an algorithm for what? Generate password. What would this algorithm do? Generate and return a password in this format. It will now generate and return a password in this format. So assume that the following modules have already been written. Exit. Remember, takes 2 parameters, a string and an integer, performs a case sensitive to check if it exists or not, returns true if the character occurs in the string, otherwise return false. Do you remember this? Then there is another module that is called the random character. It generates a single random character from one of the following range, either A to Z, or 0 to 9. That is small a to small z, capital A to capital Z, or 0 to 9. And it returns a character. So these 2 modules have been written, so you are not asked to write them. Okay, so you have to assume that they have already been written, so don't write them. I hope this is understood. Okay, good. Describe the algorithm for generate password. We are asked to describe the algorithm for generate password. Do not include pseudocode statement in your answer. Just describe. Describe, no statements. Okay, now let's now apply abstraction and decomposition in solving this problem. By the time we applied abstraction and decomposition, then you see that the problem is already solved automatically. Okay, now let's take a look at this. First and foremost, we need a function. The function is generate password, isn't it? So function generates password. It will generate password and return what? A string, because this is a string, isn't it? So returns a string. That is the first thing that we must understand, isn't it? The second thing we must understand from this statement is that we need a variable to keep all these characters, isn't it? So we need to set an identifier password as an empty string. Okay, because we need to generate each character and concatenate it with this identifier, so it becomes an empty string. I hope this is understood. Okay, good. After doing that, then how many characters do we need? 14. Then we have to loop how many times? 12 times. So I will leave the other 2 times for what? For the hyphen. So we loop 12 times. We just loop 12 times. Okay. Now, while looping 12 times, what are the things we must do? We must generate a random character, just any random character. Okay. Generate a random character. In a what? In a loop, that is in that loop. How many times? 12 times. So after you generate, you have to check if it exists. Maybe you have generated a 5. Loop means you start again. You now generated another 5. You must disallow, isn't it? That's why you have this function exists. So that one is not what? Is not duplicate. There should be no duplicate character. Is that understood? So you disallow or disregard if random character generates and exists, or no, not if random. How do we know? We must disallow or disregard if the function exists. Return what? Return true. Do you understand? If you return true, we have to disallow and regenerate the random character again. That is, if it's at because we must generate for 12 characters. Then later separate them with what? With hyphen. So 12 characters must be generated. So if you generate the first one, check if it exists in the previous one. If it doesn't, then generate another one. If it exists, disregard and regenerate until it does not exist. Hope you understand that. So with this, we have looped 12 times. Outside of the loops, now we have 12 characters. Then we now group them in what? In group of fours. Then group the characters, the 12 characters generated in groups of what? Of 4. Group the 12 characters in group of what? Of 4s. Then separated by hyphen. So we now go to a group of separated by what? By hyphen. Okay. Now after doing this, then what is the next thing? Then we now have the generated password. Then what do we do? Then we return the we return the string password. Is this understood? Okay, good. So that is the end of the code. That is the end of the description. So I just write that out. So I use abstraction to actually write the structured English. Okay, so let me write that out here. Describe generate password. So generate password is a function, isn't it? And that returns a string. Generate password is a function or declared as a function that returns a string, because you must state what it returns. Okay, now set an identifier password to an empty string. Set an identifier password to an empty string. Okay, then what is the next thing? Loop 12 times, isn't it? So let me see, this is 1, 2, 3. Loop 12 times. Loop 12 times. Don't forget, no pseudocode. Then generate a random character in a loop using what? Random character. So you have to leave an indentation, because you have to do it in this loop. So generate a random character using random char in a loop. Okay, so you have to leave an indentation to show that you are doing this in this loop. in a loop. Okay, disallow or disregard if exit returns true. So 5, disregard. Disregard, I think disregard is a better word to use. Disregard if exit returns true, and use random character to regenerate a random character again. Okay, because you have to do this how many times? 12 times. Okay, until this is done. So 6, after you have done that, group the 12 characters generated in what? In groups of 4 separated by hyphen. So that will be outside of the loop. After you've generated all the 12 characters, then you group the 12 characters generated in a group of 4 separated by hyphen. Then that is your password, isn't it? Then you return the string password. Then return the string password. I hope this is understood. Now I've been able to solve the 3 questions, question A, B, and question C. Yeah, but I haven't done that. In the question B, I made some silly mistakes. What are the silly mistakes? This silly mistake might cost me 1 or 2 marks. I did not declare all the variables used. Out of 8 marks, this code is correct, I might get 6 or 7 as the case may be. Okay, so don't always forget this in your exam. Just come to declare. Then we declare count A, isn't it? Count B, and what? Row as what? Integer. Can you still remember? So we use count A, count B, and row as integer, and also what? Found as boolean. So declare found as boolean. Okay, so like I always tell my students, I always tell them to leave enough space if they are not declaring variables at the beginning. Most especially if they don't know the number of variables they need to declare. So now that I didn't leave enough space, there is still 2 more variables I haven't declared. Is it 2? I think 4 more variables. E pass A, then password A, E pass B, password B. And all these are strings that I haven't declared at all. So I need to declare them. Is that understood? So if you have left enough space, you won't have had this problem with a space to declare. Okay. Okay, then I have to declare E pass A, E pass B, then password A, password B, as what? As strings. Okay, so now this code is now completed. So I hope this is well understood. So I've solved question 8A, question 8B, and question 8C. So let us read through the examiner's report to see common mistakes students have made in this examination, and why they lost a lot of marks, and how you can learn for the mistakes they have made. Okay, so let's take a look at the examiner's report on each question A, B, and C. So before I go to question 8, let's just take a look at the general comments from the examiner's reports. Okay, so this examiner's report, let's look at the general comments. If answers are crossed out, the new answers must be written clearly so that text may be read easily and the correct mark awarded. What does that mean? Some students maybe made a mistake with param 1 and see that, oh, I'm not supposed to. Can you remember that initially I wrote string? Yeah, I wrote string initially instead of param 1. So some students will decide to do this way, param 1. You don't have a mark like for this. This is not clearly seen. You don't have a mark for this. Okay, this is nonsense. Even though the examiner sees that you first wrote string, then you change it back to param 1, it will not be given to you. What that examiner's report is saying at that point is that if you mistakenly wrote string instead of param 1, okay, don't forget you are writing with pen and not pencil, cross it out and write param 1. So these are common mistakes students make. Instead of writing over it, make sure it is neat. I hope this is understood. Now, many candidates make use of blank pages for rough work when preparing their final answer. I explained that initially, that you should always prepare a rough work before you now write your final answer. In these cases, it is extremely helpful if the text is crossed out when answer has been written completely in relevant space to avoid ambiguity. So what this is saying is that, if you remember, I told you that you can plan this in an extra sheet before you write it. If you take a look at this code, I made mistake I think 3 times. One mistake with writing string as the argument here, and one mistake, I think it was in 8B. Yes, it was 8B, where I wrote if for loop before the while loop. If I've written that in this answer space, I will have crossed out the whole thing and there will be no space for me to write my answer. So you can plan your code in a rough sheet before you now put it here. But don't forget to cross it out. If you don't cross it out, it is like you have submitted 2 answers. And I don't know, you may be unlucky. Both may be marked and the lowest is chosen, or both is ignored. I don't know. It depends on what the examiners have discussed among themselves. Okay, good. Don't forget that you should not misuse output with return. A lot of students does that. And also, if x equals to 3 or 4, this is invalid. It is either x is equal to 3 or x is equal to 4. Now, also, these are just general comments you need to pay attention to. Yes, I've seen a lot of students writing this. For x1 to 100, they didn't put the assignment. So let's go to question 8. Comment on question 8. 6, 7, 8. So question 8A, the one we solved here. So the principal examiner comment states that some very good solutions were seen for this linear question search. Yeah, it was a linear search. You're searching for a character in a string. These were based on both a condition loop and count control loop. So either you use condition loop or count control loop. So in my own solution, I use a count control loop. You can also use a what? A precondition loop as well. A common mistake with conditional loop solution was to only check a Boolean flag, meaning that mid function will be called with a parameter value that extends beyond the length of the string. So a lot of students called mid function with what? With a length that goes beyond the length of the string. Several solutions attempt to use left rather than mid. So don't use left or right, because left will return the leftmost character, right will return the rightmost character. It is only a mid that can return the desired character at a desired index. And you can also specify if you need 1 or 2. Okay. Now, question B. For that is question A. So a lot of students use mid inappropriately, or some use right and left instead of mid. So for question B, that is the question for 8 marks. Some good solutions were seen. Mark points that were commonly awarded were usually for MP1, 4, and 8. That is, a lot of students got 1, 4, and 8. Many attempts at conditional loop omitted the check on array index value. Sometimes this functionality was unsuccessfully attempted by placing a count controlled loop within a conditional loop. Okay? Few attempts were Very few attempts at MPT were seen. The use of decrease function was common, but often return value was unassigned. So a lot of students use this decrease function, but they did not assign the return value to a what? To a variable. Then that would do nothing. Okay? So those students got 4 marks. Some students got 5 marks, but usually this ran from 1 to 500. So would recognize the original password as duplicate of itself. If you remember, I told you here that when I started this for loop, I went from the next. When count is equal to 1, I started from count B plus 1. Instead of 1 to 500, then I'm going to 2 to 500. When I count is 2, it goes to 3 to 500. So that is a common mistake students also made. Many solutions contained an attempt of MP6. Often this was incomplete or confused the content of column 1 and column 2. So I think that have to do with column 1, column 2. Yeah, this. So some students lost a mark because of that. Also, on detecting a duplicate, many solutions went on to set a flag, but often did not act as a loop terminator. So MP7 was missed. So you need a loop terminator. That was why I wrote font is equal to true to terminate this loop whenever it is found, because this question says when the first one is found. Okay. MP9 was often attempted, but in many cases the logic power to output was incorrect. There was a lot of wrong logic. So for the third question, which is the structured English, that you are asked not to write a pseudocode statement. Let's see any comment on that. Only a small number of comprehensive answers were seen. That means most answers students wrote were not comprehensive. The examiners did not even understand them. Where marks were gained, these were usually 2, 3, or 5. How many marks was the question? The question was, I think this is 8 marks. Yeah, 8 marks. The question was 8 marks. The decision of the use of exit function did not make it clear that a new random character will be generated if current one already exceeded in the password. Can you see? I wrote that you should what? You should disregard and use it to regenerate. So most students did not write that. They only said disregard, but did not say regenerate. Because if you disregard and did not regenerate, you won't get 12 characters. Okay? You won't get 12 characters. Many answers did not approach the level of detail necessary to describe as an algorithm. So there was no detail. Maybe they were just writing few points, no detail. Some answers address the task of validating an existing password rather than generating a new password. So some were validating an existing password instead of generating another one. So you're not supposed to validate, you're supposed to generate. Okay? Some kindly provided an algorithm written in pseudocode. If you write an algorithm in pseudocode, you don't have a mark. So that is the examiner's report for that question. I hope this is well understood. If you have any question, you can just ask me in the comment section, and I will try and make another video to explain everything I just or to explain anything or any part you do not understand. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.